Welcome back, everybody, to track one. I hope you all enjoyed visiting the Expo Gallery and managed to grab that coffee as well. In this session, we will hear about integrating data from offshore campuses into Pure. If you didn't know, Monash has a number of international campuses, including Monash University, Malaysia. Last year, a project commenced to incorporate this research information, which had been previously captured on spreadsheets, into Pure. We will hear about the collaboration between teams at the Australian and Malaysian campuses to deliver this project, the challenges faced, and the solutions delivered. We look forward to receiving your questions. You can submit questions to the speakers by using the live Q&A button located on the right-hand side of your screen, and time permitting, we will cover Q&A at the end of each presentation. Now, I would like to introduce you to this session's speaker, Viji Chinnamani from Monash University, subject matter expert and technical lead in the initial planning, deployment, and administration of Pure on AWS Cloud. Before joining Monash, she worked in lead roles for ExxonMobil Australia and NEC Australia for 12 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in science and master's degree in computer applications. She has won Vice Chancellor's Exceptional Performance Award and Excellence in Research Australia Performance Awards for her contributions to Monash. So without further ado, Viji, would you share with us a little bit more?
Thanks, Adam. Good afternoon, all. Good morning, wherever you are placed at. I'm Viji Chinnamani from Monash University, and today I'm going to present on integrating data from offshore campuses into Pure. We went a bit of background here. We went live with Pure at Monash in the year 2016, and then further down the track this year, in the year 2021, we have integrated data from Monash Malaysia into Pure. Just go to the next one. About Monash University. Monash University's the headquarters is in Melbourne, Australia. We have campuses in other locations, primarily Malaysia, and a new recent one at Indonesia. And then we do have collaborations with India, China, and Italy. There are around 9,000 FTE staff and 86,000 students, and the number varies based on the recent changes happening in the world. Research at Monash in Australia, we have 10 faculties, and with the recent onboarding of Malaysia, there's been information from 7 schools that's been onboarded into Pure. Monash publishes around 11,000 research outputs per year, and the funding applications around greater than 3,600 per annum. Now, this funding applications, the number may not seem to be very close because with Malaysia, it's all been captured in spreadsheets and so on, and whatever has been awarded and recently all documented is what has been brought in. Moving down, why we chose to integrate data from offshore campus into Pure. Monash came up with a strategic decision to hold or capture all the information in one location, and also to provide a global outlook, so that it's not, even though we have different campuses across the world, we are representing as one unified institution to the rest of the world. To align with that Monash's strategy for the global outlook and to streamline all the processes at the university-wide level, we chose to go with just this Pure instance and all the information being gathered from the different campuses in this one system. And it aids to report at institutional level and with the ability to extract reports. Now, with the recent onboarding of the Malaysia data into this existing Pure system, which already had the Australian data in it, we do see the difference it can bring, because we are able to, or the management is able to report on slice and dice as to where Australia sits and where Malaysia sits with respect to the data and with the work that is being done across the different campuses. Ability to showcase the research of Monash staff in one portal. The portal is managed by Elsevier, as you all know, the one good fancy looking one. And we are able, since it's all in one system, we are able to showcase the researchers profiles in that one portal. And it also helps to open opportunities to foster global collaboration. And another main thing is realize savings in operational efforts and the cost of maintenance. Since Malaysia is totally new to this, and we already have a existing system that's well maintained and operational, and all the processes are in place, we notice that we don't have to train new people to manage the systems and to deploy Pure or to provide support and all that. Or even if we need extra hands, it's only a few to assist with these operational efforts rather than setting up a new team and systems and putting the processes in place. Moving on. So, how did we manage the project and how did it come about? In 2016, when we went ahead with the go live or the implementation of Pure, we did have Malaysia in the cards, but we were not prepared at that time. We wanted to see how it's going to work out for Australia and to coordinate and to get things working between the different countries was a bit challenging at that point of time, but it's always been in the backlog. And with this strategy of Monash about providing a global outlook, it was a very good opportunity to revisit that, and things started to move or to be put in place. And the decision was made to use the existing Pure infrastructure in AWS because already the processes and the systems were in place. The Monash Research Office and the library and the faculties and the support teams, they all had an idea about how this works and how long it takes to get a new version of Pure and what is involved in supporting the system. So I think we were better placed now to onboard Malaysia. And then we had thoughts about whether we go for a different instance for Malaysia and a separate one for Australia. And upon discussions, it was realized that it will be good to have this one all in one place for reporting and for support and other processes would be made easier by having all in one place. And then we realized that we had to work on integrations with the Malaysia HR systems because Malaysia has got its own set of rules, legal rules related to the HR, and so they have their own system. So we had to work on the integrations, and that was explored. We extended the use of the processes that were already put in place so that it's the same or uniform across the different campuses. In the last Pure conference presentation, we presented about the automated user access management. That has been a very big win. Apart from the researchers getting default or automated access based on their employment categories to log into Pure, we also had to set up a mechanism whereby the admins, the research admins who are supporting the researchers, had to be enabled access, and they would, depending on what content they support, they might need a role to just support the research output content, or they might need a role just to report on certain contents like awards management and so on. And we put in place an automated user access management so that it's all going through electronic forms rather than emails being submitted between the different teams. So we could reuse the same process for Malaysia. It was literally just a few days time that was involved to bring that into or put that into action. And already the documentation and the support related material that existed for Australia was reused for Malaysia as well, and that's been a really big win. similar workflow process, approval process and validations, especially in the awards management module and in the research outputs validations. And then certain decisions were made. Malaysia did have a list of the research outputs or the publications that was being managed at their end. It was all in Excel files, and a decision was made to import these research outputs from Scopus rather than us having to do that bulk upload and do the validation. So once the Scopus IDs were there, um, it's automatically streamed into Pure. And it also set a pathway, like for Malaysian researchers, um, to enter in their Scopus IDs against, or to even request or opt for uh, new Scopus IDs, so that they don't have to manually enter their publications. It's all coming in as part of the nightly jobs. And decision on the extent of Malaysia legacy data to be imported, they did have data for around 10 years or more, I believe. But then it was decided that we would be importing data from 2014 onwards. I think primarily it was for the era related purposes, but that decision was made so that we could have a definite timeline rather than just trying to import everything or validate everything. We chose to import only the data for a certain period of time. Moving on. As with any project, we did have challenges. So the project implementation challenges, a few has been listed in here, which were the primary ones. And the product, Pure as a product, has been really helpful, especially in the first one. We had to integrate with the Malaysia HR systems. And we had challenges because of the different naming conventions that was followed by Malaysia and between Australia. And as seen in the screenshot here, we had a name variant that was being recorded in the Australian SAP systems, and they followed a certain format or a process. Whereas for Malaysia, they had a different process to record the name variants, and a decision was made that um, we would not integrate or consume the name variant part from the Malaysian HR systems. So if you can see here, this is in a synchronized mode for Australia, whereas it is not in a synchronized mode. The user can enter in their first name, last name, as seen in these screenshots. This is really important. Why is it important? It's because these are the names that would appear in the researcher profiles in the public portal. So it was of utmost importance that Malaysia had the flexibility to use this name variant option. At the same time, for the Australian cohort, it was meant to be streamed in from SAP, because this is what was already happening and we had to let it be as it is to avoid confusion. So that was a big win, because Pure did provide that option rather than us having to go and fix the name variant or the names options in the intermediate or the staging databases. And that did help us a lot. The next one was the currency options, which is still being addressed or explored as to how to be resolved, especially in the awards management. As you can see in the screenshot, there is an option to enter the currency of the awarded amount, whereas Pure provides an option to just display only one currency, which is the default for the whole of that one instance. And in our case, we started with AUD. Now Malaysia hopping on to Pure. We are exploring options to see how we can provide better mechanisms so that there is at least an exchange rate if otherwise, because when we have these amounts listed in here, there's no provision, say at a later date when we do the reporting, there's no provision to understand what was the exchange rate used at that time, or if they wanted to report on the Malaysian currency amounts, then it's not in here. So we are exploring that option with Elsevier. Then there was the time zone differences in terms of job scheduling, email notifications, and that, and support and deploying changes. What we mean by this job scheduling and email notifications is, like, there are some jobs that are scheduled to run at in the early morning hours or in the evening hours, whereas with Malaysia we have either the 2 hours or the 3 hour time difference. So the time when the mails reach their inboxes is different. Say, for example, the daily mails, which is a job that's scheduled in Pure. Not so much as to what happens in the weekend, but at least the daily notifications and so on. And the ones to highlight is about deploying changes, because the support time, it's a 9 to 5 working hours, business hours in Australia, and when it is 5 p.m. in here, it could be either 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. in Malaysia. And we start with doing a downtime of Pure and deploying or upgrading Pure to a new version, say evening around 5 p.m. It does impact Malaysia because they are still in their working hours. So we should be exploring to see how we can get better at it, or whether there are any other options around it. And the same with support. We have certain support hours when people are available, because the core support team for Australia is in here. Um, the next challenge was about the integration with business analytics. Currently, the business analytics within Monash, they provide the reporting, the university-wide reporting, up to the top level officers, because this business analytics team, they are able to gather data from the HR systems, the finance systems, and from all the other internal systems within the students management, CRM management, and Pure. And they collaborate all or collate all that data and provide reports. With Malaysia coming into the picture, we should be exploring about how we can bring the Malaysia HR into the picture. And we realized that we could manage two Pure upgrades in the middle of delivering the project, which means like the support documents and the new features that are being released as part of the upgrade all had to be communicated to the researchers as and when Malaysia cohort is learning or trying to understand how Pure works. So within a few months, they get new features and certain things are work different. So that was one of the other challenges. Moving on, we did have research output validation because this was a massive one. Australian staff have been doing the validation of the research outputs and aiding with the submission for ERA. Like after Pure was implemented, we have done one ERA submission and we are looking forward for the next one. Now that knowledge about validation of the research outputs had to be passed on to the Malaysian support cohort, and amidst the daily BAU task that's all already happening in Australia. And it was decided that all outputs needed to be validated, though it came from Scopus. And this is primarily to make sure the data integrity is in there for reporting purposes, so that the reports that are coming out are reliable and 100% sure that the data in it is intact. So extensive validation process is being followed in there. Another big one was about identifying and cleansing the duplicate person records. Now, when we went with live with Pure in 2016, data from a legacy system was transferred into Pure. And as part of that transfer, there was some Malaysia person data sitting in that system, and that was moved across as well. But they were all set to former records, or so that it's not active. And what had happened was the research outputs and some applications and awards records that was already there in the legacy systems came in along with that migrated data. Now, with the recent onboarding of Malaysia data into Pure, those duplicate person records had to be cleansed, and then whatever related records that were attached to the person records had to be moved across to the actual person records. So there's been a lot of data cleansing, and the data governance team and the library, from where they were helping validate these research outputs, they've done a fantastic job, along with Monash Malaysia, who had to go along with us in this journey. Moving down, we'll come to almost the end of it. It's about the rollout phases. Now, the release was for the Malaysian campus or the cohort. The release was decided to be a two-phased process. In phase one, what we did was we just brought in the data from the master data, to say from Malaysia and the other Monash external systems into Pure, and enabled access for the researchers so that they can log into Pure, and also enabled access for the admins, research admins, so that they can assist the researchers with updating their profiles and so on. The users were encouraged to not enter outputs and awards data, because there was a Malaysian central team support unit who were working day and night on validating these research outputs with the assistance from Monash Australia. And this is to make sure that the legacy data that's being transferred is all intact. And as part of all this being managed by the Malaysian central team, the training was also imparted from Australia to Malaysia. So that was the plan. And the phase two, which we are in this last quarter of 2021, researchers' profiles are to be released. The plan was to be done by December 2021, and it's still in the cards, and people are working heavily on validating the research outputs and getting it ready so that when the profiles are released, all the related content are all available in the portal. And it gives a full picture of the researchers' contributions rather than just their biography and the personal data being there. We are also aiming to get their related work, which is their contributions to the research outputs and the projects being published. Now, this rollout was managed by the Malaysian staff at the Malaysian campus, and they've done a fantastic job because they had to step up and learn all within a short period of time. Even though the project was started in 2020, it took speed towards closer to the last few months when the phase one was released. A number of hands-on training sessions were organized by the Malaysian cohort to inform and train the researchers, and additional sessions are also being planned to train the researchers on how to add awards and research outputs. Once the profiles are released, the researchers would be encouraged to add in the awards and the research outputs as well, if need be. Training and support provided by Monash Australia to Monash Malaysia, and it's an ongoing thing as and when the new features come into place. And that comes to the end. Any questions? And thanks to Monash Research Office, Monash Library, Malaysia Central Unit, and the eSolutions Department, the different teams. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Viji. Right on time, I must say. Perfect timing. There is a ongoing conversation between Davina and some of the Monash team as well on the points that we have made. So thanks for sharing those. It was really helpful. So with that, I will wrap up this session and look forward to seeing everyone in the next session in 5 minutes. So if you choose to stay in track one, you will be learning about societal new data streams in helping to provide evidence for societal impact. And if you decide to go for the next track, you will hear more about award management. See you guys soon. Thank you.